What's up, everyone? This is Corey Lefevre with Garden Fever again, coming back to you with another episode. I had some requests to do a video on bunching onions. I guess one of my viewers noticed that I had huge amounts of onions. I did a video, I'll put the link in the description, of 3 ways to attract bees. It was a bee video, and the bunching onion was one of them. So they wanted more information on how to grow them. So I got online. Wanted to make sure all my info is generally right. You know, I know some of it is subjective, but I noticed that most of the information out there dealt with how to start seeds, how to, their germination times, which are roughly, 12 days, give or take, and how to harvest them, how to space them, how long it's going to take to reach maturity and that kind of stuff. And I was actually surprised because I planted my onions, and I've got several pictures and videos because I got onions all over my yard. I use them to attract bees, and I use them as a bug repellent. They're not super good at that. It's kind of like a citronellus candle. It kind of gets rid of mosquitoes, but it doesn't mean you're immune to them. So, but that's aside from the point. I was surprised that hardly any of the videos talked about how to keep onions. They're perennial. Their hardy zones are from 6 to 12 or whatever. As far as cold goes, up to about 6. But I planted these about 3 years ago, and the ones around my yard, there's some of them like the Egyptian walking onions that I got over on the other side of my house. I planted about 4 or 5 years ago, and I have planted once and never had to go buy seeds, never had to do starts in the spring, and I've had a never-ending constant supply of bunching onions. And it baffles me that people are starting onions in their garden and then harvesting them and then doing the process all over again next spring. You can do that, and if that's what you prefer, I mean, by all means. Like I said in my very first video, I don't believe in rights or wrong. I just believe that there's ways to do things better. If that's how you prefer it, by all means. To me, it's a lot of work for an extremely easy vegetable to grow. Let me get into what green onions are real quick. They're basically an immature onion, where you eat the green part and then the white part below, which never really develops into a bulb. They're in the allicin family, and there's lots of varieties. There's red varieties, there's all kinds of white bunching onions like this. And in the allicin family, you get chives, you get onions, you get shallots, you get a wide variety. Those are all kind of in the same family. And in fact, I got chives right here, and they're the same thing. I've planted chives once and I've never done it again. I think most people with chives kind of do it that way, but you can apply the same concept to bunching onions. So I'm going to explain my process and how I overwinter them, how I keep them continual. I felt like I needed to do that because there just wasn't a whole lot of information out there on that. It was all about their germination, how to plant them, the spacing, blah blah blah. That's good, great information. But once you've started them, once you get them going, they can potentially be there from then on. You don't need to do this every year. So how I do it, and I'll show you some pictures. I actually have them growing with snow on top of them. We're in zone 6, and we've had winter temperatures in the negatives before. They generally will sit between, like 5 degrees to 20 through the dead of winter, so it's not incredibly cold. But I'll brush the snow aside, and I've got green onions underneath, and it baffles me that people are not utilizing this. It's so easy to do. I'm not sure exactly at what cold temperature it cuts off when you can't overwinter them anymore, but you can still seed them, so they'll return every spring. And that kind of baffles me that everybody's harvesting them all, replanting them, harvesting them all, replanting them every single year. Obviously not everybody, some people know this, but but I wanted to do this for you guys. So anyway, what I do, bunching onions are better when they're younger. They're more tender, they're less fibrous, the flavor isn't super potent. And so you want to harvest them when they're young, or relatively young. And that's kind of the best way to do it. But what I do is I let them grow like this. We're in March, we're in the middle of March. And in Utah winters, it's actually been pretty warm this March. And so we're kind of getting spring growth. But a lot of times we'll have snow all the way till the end of April. As you will see through the picture that I've got, that I started seeing these grow in like February, and it was still 20 degrees out. All the websites I've read said that they grow between, you know, like 40, it varied a little bit, but it was like 40 to 75, or, you know, 65 to 75 degrees. And I think that's true when you're growing brand new. I don't know if you can see it that far away, but brand new sprouts can be a little bit more tender. So you do kind of need to wait for warmer weather. They are cold hardy, you know, so you know, around 40, 50 degrees you can get, you know, sprouts. So that being said, when you're first starting them, you need to be kind of conscientious of the temperature. But once they establish, there's no reason, unless you live way up north in zones, you know, below 5, that you can't overwinter them. And I actually think you could probably overwinter in 5 and maybe even 4 before. I'm just not 100% sure, so don't take me to the bank for that. That being said, what I do is I let them grow, and I harvest the small ones as I need them. Doesn't get any fresher than that. Whenever I'm making an omelet, or I'm making a steak and I want onions, or I'm doing a salad and I want green onions or scallions on top, I'll come out and I'll go through this and be like, this one's still young, or this one's still young, and I'll pop them off, and then I chop them up and put them in my stuff and cook them, rather than just harvesting them all and having to start all over in one load. And then I let them grow, and as they get bigger, they can go to the load, you know, which doesn't bother me, but some people it does. What happens is, as they grow, they start to go to flower, and they mature, and then there's this white puffy ball on top that it starts to produce seeds. And then I let those go. I'm not going to eat those. I just let them grow. I let them stay right there. As soon as I see the little black dots of the seeds in that cotton ball looking thing, I cut it, I shake out all those seeds down in it, and then next year it starts new starts. Another thing you can do is you can cut down to the base. If you leave the white root part in the ground, that will return every year. So it starts all over. These, what you see right here, are last year's onions that I left. They've gone down. I'll recycle it back into the soil. These are all brand new onions. I planted these years ago. Never-ending supply of bunching onions. I do the same thing with my chives. I just cut them. I give them a haircut, like a flat top. I put that in my food, and then I let them grow back. These were overwintered, and these were overwintered, and all the other ones were overwintered. I've planted these one time, and that was it. So when they get really big and they go to seed, they're very potent onions. I wouldn't recommend eating them. Those are the adult ones. If you need a large scale amount, harvest 1 out of every 5 and leave one. Let it go to seed, and then replant the seeds. You can buy them from the store, cut off the white root part, put them in soil, and start a new plant. And you can do this with most of the allicin family. So it kind of baffles me that everybody's putting so much energy in creating rows of bunching onions, and then harvesting them all, and then next year redoing that. So I wanted to give that advice to my viewers. You don't need to do that with these onions. Let them grow permanently in one spot, and then you just harvest the young ones and let a few mature, take the seeds and dump them back in. In fact, I actually harvest the seeds. I put them in a little jar, and I've got, if I ever need to, it's never ending. I can have thousands of green onions easily, and they're permanent. So I wanted to do a little short video. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comments. You can email me. That'll be in the description, and I'll link a video to how to attract bees and how to put them, because those white puffy balls are bee magnets. Trust me, they love it. So I use them for kind of a bug deterrent. I use them to attract bees, and then I eat them. And once I've planted them, they're there permanently. There's various kinds. I actually have 2 different bunching onions, and then Egyptian walking onions. And Egyptian walking onions are a little different. They don't form the white puffy ball. They actually form small little starts on the top, and then they fall over, and then those starts root themselves. So you can clip that off, and then you just break apart those starts and put them in the ground, and there you go. Or you can leave them like I do, and I just pull up young ones in the spring and in the fall, and then, you know, and I've got to where there's so many rotations that I always have a young one to harvest, and I always have an old one producing seeds. The only time I don't is after winter, because they do slow down in winter. They don't grow very well in winter. So in the spring, I kind of have to wait for them to mature before I can start biting and taking the seeds. But other than that, I've got such a rotation that it just baffles me that people are putting so much work into this. It's one of these plants where you don't need to. It's a perennial plant. It will return year after year after year after year. So just designate a patch, designate a pot like this, and then when you need them, just yank out some of the younger ones to use for your recipe, and leave some of the bigger ones that have grown big and matured and are probably pretty harsh on the onion flavor to grow to seed, so you can replenish your plants below. Or, like I said, you can give it a flat top. You don't get the white part, you get the scallion part, but you can give it a flat top at the end of fall, leave the white part in the ground the way where they were at, cover it with a light mulch to kind of insulate it, and I guarantee you next spring they will pop right back up. So I'll show you some pictures of some of them around my yard, but we're just coming out of March, and this is the growth I got. I started seeing this in February when there was snow on this pot. So that'll be it for now. I won't get into chives and garlics. We'll get into other videos like that, but if you have any questions, let me know. Share, like, subscribe, and we'll see you then.